I worry about nothing. I am wearing a nada. I'm sitting pretty impatient, but I know you gotta put in them hours. I'ma make it harder. I'm sending pick after picture. I'ma get you fired. I know you're always on that night shift, but I can't stand these nights alone. And I don't need no explanation, 'cause baby, you're the boss at home. You don't gotta go to work, 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 but you gotta put in work, 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 work. You don't gotta go to work, 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 work. Let my body do the work, 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 work. We can work from home. We can work from home. Let's put it in motion. I'ma give you a promotion. I'll make it feel like a vacate. Turn the bed into an ocean. We don't need nobody. I just need your body. Nothing but sheets in between us. Ain't no getting off early. I know you're always on that night shift, but I can't stand these nights alone. And I don't need no explanation, 'cause baby, you're the boss at home. You don't gotta go to work, 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 but you gotta put in work, 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 work. You don't gotta go to work, 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 work. Let my body do the work, 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 work. We can work from home. We can work from home.
Oh yeah, girl gotta work for me. Can you make it clap? No hands for me. Take it to the ground, pick it up for me. Look back at it all, I'm for me. Put in work like my time, she ride it like a 63. I'ma buy a new Celine, let her ride in the forest with me. Oh, she the babe, I'm her boo, and she down to break the rules. Ride or die, she gon' go, I'm gon' choose. She finesse, I fight up, she take that. Put in overtime on your body.
You ain't gotta go to work, no. Work, 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 but you gotta be work, 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 work. You don't gotta go to work, 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 work. Let my body do the work, do the work, do the work. Yeah, yeah, we can work from home. We can work from home. Yeah, we can work from home. Yeah, we can work from home.
This is a Missy Elliott one-time exclusive. Come on, is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive is when yet. It's your primitive is when yet. If you got a big, let me search it. To find out how hard I gotta work. Yeah, it's your primitive is when yet. It's your primitive is when yet. I like to get to know ya, so I can show ya. Put the pussy on ya, like I told ya. Give me your
Oh, welcome back.
phone ya. Your girl acting stink, then call me.
I was gonna play the whole song and then Jen started singing. I was like, that's good. Good transition spot.
It's a very bad, it's a naughty song.
I think I'm growing and maturing because I actually looked for the clean version of it.
Oh my god. I don't think that was it.
No, it was.
Was it really?
I think so.
Wow.
It didn't have the E next to it. I mean, I guess it's fine. Welcome back, everybody. I'm fighting a little bit of a cold. Hopefully it doesn't come through that much. Oh, we have some people in chat. Pirate Mara is in there. The stream started already. Yes, we're here. As far as I know, I looked on the streams and it looks like, yep, no, it's going. We are here whether you like it or not. How'd the interview of the last stream go? That one was a nice conversation, but it was a non-starter. I do have news. However, I'm also very superstitious. So I'm not going to announce the news yet. Because I don't know if it's news. It might be news. It's probably news. It's like 99% news. But I'm not going to.
So stay tuned to their next conversation because
nice plug, Susanna.
Let's just say that I'm fighting through the cold today because I won't have time to do something like this at noon on a Friday for a while. I think. Knock on wood. But that being said, once the thing is the thing that might be the thing, you're all gonna hear about it. So anyway, I'll cover that. It's fine. So yeah, round two. We want to do this pretty quickly because people liked the first one that we did, which was basically an overview, honestly, of. I also want to make sure that I'm not clicking and popping like I was last time. Hold on. Anybody who's gonna yell at me about levels, I'm getting there. I went through the audio last time and like you two were perfect and me, I was just like clicking and popping every 5 seconds and it was like, as an audio person, I just wanted to hang myself. So for anybody who wants to go and view that, we have the full playlist up. It is up on my YouTube on Second Order Chaos and cut up into nice little convenient slices with title cards. So that you're not wondering where the important stuff is and not just me telling my story about how I tried to fake my way through an interview. Although that is, I did listen back to that myself just to punish myself some more.
Great story.
Great.
Lessons were learned.
What not to do with Danny.
Yeah, there's totally no whiskey in this for me to cope with it. But a lot of things surfaced from last time. And I wanted to do another one that was a little bit more of a deep dive. So this was, resume revamp and brand building. And we covered a little bit of both of those over that hour. But I wanted to really dive into the resume part of things, which is Susanna's specialty. And I mean, Jen also has input. Jen's probably seen 8,000 of them. And you probably get people asking you to look at their resume all the time, right, Jen? Just from a marketing perspective?
Just yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure you looked at mine 6, 7, 9 times. Just because, and full disclosure, how I met Susanna was thank you, TikTok. Whoever says TikTok isn't useful, like you're just not using it right. So I was procrastinating before the gym like I always do. I'm sitting there waiting for my pre-workout itchy scratchies to start. So I'm in my truck and just kind of doom scrolling or whatever. And I start getting served these videos because I think I talked about it to a friend out loud in earshot of my phone. So it picked it up, just like all the ads for the weird things I talk about. But I started getting served videos about being a generalist, which is essentially what I am. It's what I've always been. I've tried to crowbar my way into places like, but my real wheelhouse, like, I've been a threat hunter or a SOC analyst or exactly this thing or exactly that thing. And it took a while for this to crystallize later in my career, but that's just not what my innate skill sets and abilities are. I'm the dude you give stuff to that's broken and say, here, please this. Like, this, it has been heretofore effed. We would like it to not be effed anymore. See what you can do with this. Do you know anything about this? No, but I'll figure it out. You know how many times I've been asked to write a blog about a technical thing that I had never studied? I'm like, I'll figure it out. It's just my thing. And it's not bragging. I don't know why it's my thing. Just like some people's thing is being a master chef. Some people's thing is being a super athletic. It's just their thing. It's what they're meant to do. Mine is being a generalist. They're like, oh, you have a X project? Let me go find the principles and go, okay, now kiss. And like go and do things. So I got served this video and I reached out to this woman. She was very lovely. I don't remember her name, Susanna.
Millie Tamati.
Yeah, Millie. Australian, correct? If I remember correctly.
She is from New Zealand and
I apologize to all the New Zealanders.
Scotland.
My God. But
the rage that has ensued.
I've worked with New Zealanders before. I'm sorry. Not like Millie will ever see this, but also to the universe, I'm sorry.
You should be.
It's like asking somebody who's from New York where they live in New Jersey. Like it's just a whole holy war. Yes, Mara. The generalists are the glue of IT. They are the ones that they might not have the exact subject matter expertise, but they know the people that do, and they can extrapolate. Like that's perfectly fine. So anyway, again, I'm trying to get to the resume stuff, but I'm just going to how I met Susanna. I reached out to this Millie person, and she was like, and I said, hey, do you do consulting? And she was like, well, no, but I have somebody who does back over in the States. So I already crossed the ocean once. And then I crossed it back over again, and she gave me Susanna. And a fun side note is Susanna's family is actually from the city that I currently reside in. So that was super fun. And just the simulation, like going, hey, look, Easter egg. And I had my, her website is right down there. It's hireablecareercoaching.com. You can pay Susanna to do these things. I paid Susanna to do these things. I'm not telling you to. She's not telling you to. Her and I have had this conversation a million times. I have sent, we joke she became the unofficial offboarding coach for my last company because I sent so many people to her. You can get a free 30 minutes with her. And then if you choose to go further, but nobody's telling you to. She's been gracious enough to do these streams with me out of the goodness of her heart, and she's an amazing person. But she's the one, as good as I am, right? And for anybody who's listening to this now, later, in the future, whatever, and I understand the pain of, I love giving talks. I love being on stage. I love writing. I love all of those things that involve self-promotion and a grandiosity of character or whatever, of being out and performing. But God damn it, if I don't know how to do my own resume, and I hate it. I look at it and I loathe it. It is the thing I need to get the things I need to do the things I want. And I hate it and I suck at it, and nobody can convince me otherwise. So I sought out Susanna, Millie Susanna through Millie. And matter of fact, while Susanna is going to be talking, because I'm going to shut up in about 5 seconds, I'm going to find my previous version of my resume, and I'm going to find the one that Susanna made for me.
Oh, I love that.
And
before and after.
The before and after, right? And some people might see the before and say, well, what that looks like a perfectly cromulent resume. Styles change, right, Susanna?
Yes.
Like from like pretty frequently, right? Like the person who made a resume 10 years ago, it's not gonna, today's resume shouldn't look like that.
No. Absolutely not.
I guess start us out. Like what are some of the most common questions you get when you first get introduced to somebody who needs this kind of help?
Well, people will send me their resumes and they will ask basically, why am I not getting any responses? And I will share that I spent 6 years looking for a job before I found this one. I had like a bunch of survival jobs in between. But I was doing the wrong things repeatedly. And it wasn't until I got some people smacking me upside the head and being very clear with me about what my resume wasn't doing that I started getting better at what a resume should do. And what a resume should do is tell your story. Now that I am a chief people officer and I am regularly reviewing resumes, I have an entirely different perspective, and I understand why my resume was failing, why other people's resumes fail, and what people need to do better. Very simply put, you need to tell a hiring manager who is giving all of 7 seconds at most why they should talk to you. It's not what you're proud of. It's not your biggest accomplishments that are going to get you in the who's who or on your mom's fridge. It is what they care about. And this is what gets to Jen's branding, is that when you are marketing yourself, right, Jen, you don't talk about what you care about. You talk about what the other person cares about. And Jen,
Absolutely.
how do you know what someone else cares about, particularly when you're looking for a job? Like, what would you tell people?
Lots of OSINT. Do your research, do your due diligence. This is one of the most important first impressions that you're going to try to make, especially if it's a job that you want. So do as much research as you can to see what types of news the company has been in recently. Have they put out recent press releases? What have they talked about in regards to their culture? What's important to them? If you are able to determine who the hiring manager is, or who might be involved in that decision, do a little bit of digging into those people, see what they're posting on LinkedIn, on other social media profiles, and figure out what makes them tick and what their motivations are, why this gap and this need exists, why this role is here, and try to speak to the core of that. So it's a lot of digging.
And reading the job posting carefully.
Yep.
I will be the first to tell you that most job postings are terrible. But they still serve a basic function in that they put their highest priority right at the top. So I've recently been looking for a role, and we were very specific about the kind of person we wanted and the kind of background we wanted. And I got a whole bunch of resumes that had absolutely no relevant background. The other mistake I see, and I think this may be an old school approach to resumes, is that people just list the where they worked, when they worked there, and what their job title was with no supporting information at all. This is a chance to tell your story. Every single place where you worked needs to have no more than 5 bullet points with the impact you made at that job. So basically, it wasn't that you showed up there. Please do not copy your previous job description and just paste it in. You need to convey to the hiring manager why your being in that role made an impact for that business or that organization. I'm not by nature a quant person, and this drove me crazy when I was writing my resume. It actually drove me to tears. Like, I don't have impact. I don't know what I accomplished. I didn't do anything. I don't have any quantitative numbers. I'm an educator, right? Like, and I was in like fuzzy consulting about workforce development and making cultures better. So I didn't have any hard numbers. And what helped me get better was understanding that it didn't have to be numbers. It just had to be why your body being there mattered and the difference you made. Every single bullet point needs to communicate what you did, how you did it, the impact you made, and most importantly, why the hiring manager cares. Jobs are problems. They're looking to solve a problem, and your resume is your basically your statement of why you are the best person to solve their problems.
Let's go with one of the most common ones.
Mm.
Is there a magic page count for a resume? I have few other details about resume creation have driven me as completely bat up the wall, getting competing things. Oh, well, I'm a hiring manager and I do this, or I'm a recruiter or this, or my dad used to do a recruiter in the 1960s, whatever. How many pages?
I think the old school advice is do not do more than one page. That is only relevant if you are a recent college grad or in the first 5 years of your work journey. You just don't have enough information to put on there to be relevant. And for God's sake, please do not put like college activities or jobs in retail if you're not looking for a retail job. If you are a professional with more than 5 years of experience, have 2 pages. It's fine to go to 2 pages. Don't go to 3 unless you're applying for an academic job, and academic resumes are a whole other thing. But a 2-page resume that is thoughtfully constructed is actually de rigueur. Like that's the standard. I want to see evidence that you have accomplished something in your career.
So you've seen, I imagine, resumes from every level of an organization, right? From rank and file to executive or whatever. Have you seen executives that have had more than 3 pages? Because I think, to me, and this could just be my own personal bias of just imagining stuff because I like to imagine things, of a C-suite, even a CISO or something, they must have accomplished so much, and it must have been this and blah blah blah. It must be 20 pages or whatever.
Not at all. It's conveying the right things, not all the things. You need to be a ruthless editor. I had read for years that hiring managers spent between 3 and 7 seconds evaluating resumes, and I am here to tell you that is absolutely true. All the times I would get so angry because I got rejected immediately and I blamed the ATS or AI. It's not. It's a
Oh, I
hiring
love
manager.
blaming the AI. Yeah,
Oh,
blaming AI is
it's
fun.
so not. First of all, most ATSs, most applicant tracking systems do not have sophisticated AI. They're just starting to bring it into their systems. So you can't blame AI because it doesn't exist. Also, AI is only as good as the inputs that the human puts in. This is fundamentally a human problem. So if the human isn't putting in the right keywords, then you're not going to get like seen, and that is their problem, not yours. The problem isn't the AI and it's not the ATS. It's the way you're telling your story. And if you're an executive, you need to do that in 2 pages because part of being an executive is being able to communicate concisely.
If I'd say if there are additional things that you want to share or deeper levels you want to go in, LinkedIn is a great
Yes.
addition to your resume. So the resume is like the highlight reel, and then your LinkedIn can be if people want to dig a little bit further, or if you want to share more about your history and your experience, feel free to do so on LinkedIn.
Exactly.
Um, trying to think of what are some of the other. Do you have any more other like super and by the way, anybody who is in chat at the moment that has any questions that you've ever wanted to ask, like now is definitely the time. What are some of the other ones that you've seen, or maybe some of the biggest consistent mistakes? Have you seen like consistent mistakes from people?
A consistent mistake I see are people just listing what they did, like regurgitating their job description. And that doesn't tell me anything. That just tells me that you've maybe fulfilled the duties of your job description or that you know how to copy and paste your job description. So really adding color and adding story and using this as a branding opportunity, I think is crucial. Another mistake I see is that people don't customize their resume. I know this sounds exhausting, but getting a generic Indeed resume for a role that has very specific requirements doesn't do anything. I'm not going to invite you in. I need to know that you've paid attention, you've done some research, and this is something you actually want. So that whole spray and pray methodology does not serve you. It is not a numbers game. It's a clarity game.
Um, I have heard, speaking of the ATSs, speaking of the resumes, people doing things. I don't know. I remember hearing this a long time ago. I don't know if anybody still says this nonsense or not. But like taking keywords and like putting them in white text and hiding them in the document. Is that a thing? Is that just an old wives' tale?
That is an old wives' tale. That is not a thing that gets you anywhere. Again, you are assuming way more sophistication and 37-dimensional chess than actually exists. These are not sophisticated tools by and large.
And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, do you really want to trick an employer into hiring
Right?
you? That might be great initially, but it's not good for either party long term.
I mean, I'm not averse
You're
to
like,
it.
Irene.
You know, I've done things. I might have started my career because back when
It's a good point. Good
back,
point.
back when I could back when you could do this, it's like give me the name for your manager, and it was just like my asshole buddy I worked with because the manager I was at I quit because he was just a tyrant, and I was in the wind, and it was like one of my first IT gigs, and they bought it hook line, and I was at that place for 5 years. I stayed there for a long time, and I was good at my job, and I don't know what may or may not have happened. Am I advocating lying? I am not. I most certainly am not. I'm not averse to it, but I'm not the expert here. I'm just the one pushing the buttons, so don't do my trickery.
Yeah, don't lie. Do not lie on your
No,
resume.
don't lie. Especially, but and that was IT too, and like that was a very nuanced. That like they just need somebody a body in a chair at a law school to take all the shit from the lawyers and stuff. But like in our industry, in our technical industry, in security and things like that, they will sniff you out in a second. Mara asks how do you keep your resume up to date with respect to changing technology nomenclature?
Oh, interesting. So I think what a lot of us are guilty of doing is you work really hard in your resume while you're looking for a job, and then you get the job and you sit back in your chair and you're like, cool, I got the job. And then you assume it's going to be forever and it never is. And then all of a sudden you're scrambling looking for a job and you have to go through and update your resume and it's exhausting. So the way to keep your resume up to date with changing nomenclature is to, I guess, like always be searching. Keep your eyes on jobs out there. Make it a part of your professional development and notice what industry terms are changing. So I know that tech platforms have changed. There was a time when Ruby on Rails was everything and like Python was everything. Just make sure you're staying up to date. And a big part of that is making sure that your skills are staying up to date. So continually seeking opportunities to grow and develop, which to Jen's point, like you're doing it and therefore you're not lying about it. You actually have the skills. And that's the best way to make sure your resume stands out is by doing the things that will make you stand out.
And I'd add that if there's maybe a tool or product that used to be known by one name, Azure, that is now something else, and you're worried about maybe a keyword not picking something up because it has like the old term or the new term, I think it'd be fine to list both of them, like, this, formerly that, maybe in parentheses, so that way you're hitting on both of the terms, but also indicating like, I am up to date. I know that this term no longer applies, as long as it's not a term that is like wildly offensive that we've all kind of moved on, shifted tides on as a industry.
That's absolutely correct. Good advice.
All right. I think let's do this. I am going to bring up what my resume looked like. I'm going to bring up 3 different versions. I'm going to bring up the one that I had back in 2020. This is when I really started transitioning into a more operational type thing. It was geared more towards evangelism, things like that. Now, this will not be very entertaining if you were listening to this later whenever I get it up on Spotify, and I apologize. But I will cut this specific segment up on the YouTube so you can just go and see like, oh, good, they're actually going to stop talking and actually bring up an actual resume. Sadly, or luckily, I looked for like my last 10 years. I don't think any of mine were really that bad. And also, it wouldn't be fair to hold up a candle of a resume from 2005 to 2025. And by the way, the fact that I have a resume 20 years ago is upsetting. So let's level set that. That I said that out loud just now, and I did the quick math in my head because I'm a tech guy. That's upsetting. All right.
You old.
Dude, it's so bad. All right, let me bring up some window captures here. And I am going to, let's do...
I should try to dig up one of my old ones. I used to have all this like fancy formatting with the colors and the fonts and the logos of everything, and thought it looked so snazzy.
Can we actually, that's something to talk about. Like, don't go fancy on your resume. Times New Roman is absolutely fine. Make sure you've got bullet points. Keep it boring, keep it simple, because truly 7 seconds of someone else's life is not worth 4 hours of yours.
And you often don't know if those fonts are going to translate
exactly
once it's like pulled into a different system. It might come up as gobbledygook.
Yeah.
Let me hold on. I'm getting there. So yeah, I'm gonna bring up. Let me get this. You guys can see this, right? Well, at least my hosts can see this. Okay, so this was the resume that I gave to when I worked for Splunk. So this was kind of the style. I thought this would have been a good style at the time. And I'm gonna go over this cursory so you can see the difference of how I've changed it. But I've seen resumes that do this kind of color thing. What do you think about that, Suzanne? What do you think about, should it always just be plain black and white? Is it
the color doesn't matter one way or another. I think color mattered more when you were looking at a pile of paper resumes and it would stand out. Exactly. That's a print thing.
Oh, good. Got my phone number up
it's
there.
It's all digital.
Yeah.
Way to share that personal information, Danny.
Fantastic. Nobody's gonna watch this. Fine.
I saw upset, call me.
Well, I'll just put a sticker over it or something. And I just noticed that like the color is different too and stuff. But and like my intro is like 3 paragraphs long, so that's probably not great, right?
It's a little long and a little chunky. Again, 7 seconds. No one's going to read that very carefully composed love letter to Splunk.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then and then I put But anyway, you know what? Let me just scroll through this real quick, and then I'm going to bring in my most immediate ones. So I put like my community contributions, education, and then I go into my professional experience. So this is essentially what it looked like 5 years ago. Not essentially, it's exactly what it looked like 5 years ago.
This is all first person too. So my and I, like, imagine you're having a conversation with someone and every sentence starts, I did this, my did this. Don't use personal pronouns in your resume.
Well, I mean, anybody who's ever talked to me knows most conversations are about me. So that's mostly a personal character flaw on my end. So yeah, so that's what that looked like. And now I am going to bring up, let me do this. I'm going to go back to this, transition to this, and then I'm going to bring up, where is this Adobe Reader thing? Oh, bear with me. I should have had this ready. Blah, 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 blah. Window count.
One thing I wanted to bring up
Yes.
is I
Riff,
have
please.
hired designers previously, and a lot of times designers will ask me, like, shouldn't my resume give some indication of my unique design flavor? And I think as long as it's not distracting, you can have a tiny little bit, but definitely have a portfolio. If you want to showcase your design chops, have a portfolio listed there on your resume where people can go and just see how like beautifully brilliant you are from a design perspective. But don't try to get too snazzy with the formatting of the resume, because it could definitely throw things off once you feed it into the different systems. And like Susanna keeps mentioning, when a hiring manager is going through application after application after application, if you have to hunt and try to find a piece of information, or if something is just distracting, it will more than likely not be taken in a good type of way, like, oh, this is distracting, but now I'm intrigued, let me dig and spend 10 more minutes trying to find something. You would hope that folks would have enough time and devote the energy to put into that, but the reality of the situation is that there are just hundreds of people applying for each of these open roles typically within the first like week, often the first few days that things are opened up, if it's a really attractive position. So keep it simple, keep it brief but punchy. And then if you want to showcase some other stuff, have a portfolio, whether that's for design work or content creation, or other large scale projects that you've been part of.
And that goes across industries, because people are inevitably going to want you to present. You should have a whole toolkit of past presentations you've done, past work you've done, past writing samples you've done, so that you don't have to scramble when you're in the final rounds and someone's asking you for this information.
Okay, so here is what my resume looked like before I gave it to Susanna. And I thought, hey, color. Two, I thought it looked better until I looked at it again and through Susanna's eyes. So before I show, we're like, let's go through this and just what you see on its face about what you would give people general advice. So yeah, this is what it looked like before, and then I'll show you the after we talk about it for a little bit.
The key to marketing is it's not what you care about, it's what the person,
I know that now.
the other person cares about, right?
Yeah.
So the about me section is I, and what I've done. But as a hiring manager, one, I'm scanning it over a second maybe, and I'm looking for maybe some keywords, but I'm actually not paying any attention to this. And I bet you spent a lot of time crafting that.
Maybe. I'm not going to say if I did spend a lot of time or not. I spent so much time. So this is, imagine everybody who's listening or watching this or whatever, that you gave this kind of resume. Susanna is now giving her like split second. Okay. And actually talk me through this. When you get a resume in, what are you doing? Are you sitting at paint a picture for me. Are you clicking on an email? Are you getting a notification? What's your day like? Like, name one of your days when you had to go over resumes. What were you thinking personally as somebody who had to make these decisions? Because I want to despite my almost erotic fixation on just blaspheming recruiters and hiring managers everywhere, because I want them to be the bad guy. I want them to be evil. Help me humanize it. What's your day like on any given day when you had to do something like this before you had to click and open one of my resumes?
So I have this job that I need filled. I'm so excited. I've been imagining this person. I hope this person exists when I crafted the job posting. And now I get a notification from my ATS in my Outlook inbox. You have new applicants. Cool. I go to my ATS, which is an online browser. I find my rec. I go in, I click on the candidate's name, and I scroll down to the resume. And immediately I'm scanning, I have like the top 3 things in my head that I'm looking for in terms of experience, skills, and just sort of the quality of background. I'm looking for someone who's relevant. I'm looking for someone who's interesting, and I'm looking for someone who has the basic requirements for the job. And then it is just that fast. I'm grading them because that's what our ATS lets us do. So it's A, B, C, or X. And then I'm giving a do not move forward to most candidates because they do not meet the requirements of the position.
And how
Brutal,
quickly?
brutal, Susanna. Damn.
I thought the Roman Colosseums were bad.
The
Jesus.
reality.
It's reality. Like because I'm also getting like I've got 12 emails I need to respond to, and my phone is ringing because I've got like 7 other crises to attend to. And this is a core part of my team, or it's a core part of someone else's team, and I can't wait. I'm so excited. I love hiring people. It's one of my favorite things to do because I love meeting people. I don't got time.
And
Hot button question, possibly. Do you look at a cover letter first, or do you look at the
Oh.
actual resume first?
I look to see if there's a cover letter and like points if there is. Um,
Same.
yeah, absolutely. I love someone who's put the time into writing a cover letter. And then, but I look at the resume first. And then if the resume interests me enough, then I click on the cover letter. And it had better be a cover letter that you have written specifically to this job, not a generic cover letter.
oh God. See, okay. I could do a whole 20 minutes on just a cover letter.
We should. That should be our next one.
So like how much
Yeah.
time, oh, by the way, so Brandon asked me, this is specific to me. Why start with community contributions? Is that more role related? Yeah. No. For me, I thought that it was. No? Okay. Well, Susanna, should I have not have done this?
Correct. You should not have done this.
Brandon, no, I shouldn't have done that. Well, because I was going for an evangelist type role, so I thought, let's the things that you could see me have done. Okay, so here's the job seeker perspective, evangelist role, thinking you're gonna want to see what I can do, and maybe I was really overthinking this now that Susanna's like, I can only spend 2 seconds per resume, but like giving examples of writing and blogging and video, and I think I should put that up front because that seems like an important part. This is what I would care about, but I'm not the one writing the job. So what was I shut up, Brandon. He's like, I knew you already messed up.
There's support.
This fucking guy. I promised I wouldn't curse on the stream an hour. So
Too
no,
late.
right? So that
Song
should
already busted that.
Brandon. So no, right? That's a no.
I need to know that you can do the job, and I need to know that you've done this job in other jobs. So like your community contributions are awesome. And Danny, that is one of the things that makes you so good. This is part of your chief unefferness is that you have this community part of you. But it's not what a hiring manager cares about. The other thing you need to know about resumes is that it's not always the hiring manager directly reviewing them. It can sometimes be an HR screener who's going through, and they don't know anything except what is on the job posting. So
I feel like a majority of the time, I think it's an initial screener before it even
yeah,
goes to the hiring manager, unless it's a smaller company that doesn't really have the ability to have that type of role.
exactly. And then the screener is flagging this like, hey, this aligns. I'm going to move this forward to the hiring manager to review. So your audience is a recruiter who really just cares about what's in the job posting.
Fine, whatever.
What if, so on that community contributions, what if the job role that Danny was going after was the actual title was community manager?
Cool. Then you can make that a job, right? And it's like put
Oh,
all this as a community manager and so
formatted
formatted
like it's a
like
job.
a job.
Oh,
Exactly.
okay. Nice.
Here, hold on. I'm air now. I'm like, you know what? We just want to see the resume. We don't need to see all my stupid elements. Okay. So let's continue then. Let's do this. So okay, so that yeah. And then I don't know. I added this little blurb in here for some reason. I don't know why.
You're very proud of that, which you should be.
I am proud of it. Thank you, Susanna. Okay, now let's get down to the experience.
Sorry.
What?
She harsh. She harsh.
She was much nicer than this when I paid her money to do it.
This position
Now she can just
held
let it all out. She's been holding it in.
position held a myriad of responsibilities,
It's like
including
guffaw.
This is awful. I have a job offer right now. Why am I sitting through this? I mean, maybe.
To educate.
Exactly. And honestly, it's just that first bullet point, like just cut to the meat, cut to the chase. You don't need to take the reviewer out to dinner. Like just get right to it. It's fine.
Ugh. Okay, fine. Too many bullets? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Let's go down. So how is the is this like title where like is this format still the way to do it?
Yeah, that's good. So yes, title first, where you did it, and physically where you did it, as well as years. That is appropriate.
Okay.
Definitely month and year, not just year.
All right, let's scroll a little further down because this is so much fun. I did kind of the same for. I mean, I did, and again, I was not here for that long. Few bullet points per thing. Let me know if anything jumps out at you before I bring up the new one.
So again, you're telling your story the way you care about it. The hopeful of an opportunity to build a customer success practice from the ground up. I thought healthcare would be an exciting area in which to do just that. That's what's great about this is that you're sort of giving your interview story. Like this is an answer to an interview question that nobody's asking yet.
Okay. I honestly couldn't tell if that was an insult or a compliment.
It was kind of both. This is it's not a bullet point for a resume, but it is pre-thinking for the interview. So
thank you. And then yeah, I went down some more.
okay, so actually, this is a good point. Your senior technical account manager, I worked one-on-one with my clients to help them use Threat Insight product to its fullest capabilities, leveraging my years of blue team knowledge and my years of training and speaking to communicate and empathize. What's fabulous about that bullet point, Danny, is that you say the what, the how, and the what you did and what changed. And why, like, this is you bringing all of your skills to the fore. That's great.
Yay, I did something right.
You totally did.
And by the way, let me, with us, something just occurred to me, and I'm not going to be cagey anymore. I've accepted an offer. This is not, hey, Danny's just putting his resume out in case 3 other people see it. This is really just me putting myself before the firing squad for no reason at all. I now have a job. It's awesome, and I'm really excited. So, lest anybody come, you're like, oh, who's this dick just putting his resume out online? But also, that's a good move, and I would have did it anyway. And then, so this is where I did other technical expertise and positions. Because this was me again, job hunter logic here is that I am still in a technical arena. I'm not aiming for a super technical job, but I want them to know that I know what I'm talking about. Valid?
Right. Other ways to show it.
Other ways to show it?
Yeah, there are other ways to show that. And it could be like if this is not directly relevant, actually that earlier bullet point where you talked about using your previous experience, that's a great way to do it. Jen, do you have a different perspective by any chance?
I typically have hired more for marketing roles and not necessarily technical roles. I know on the marketing roles that I've hired for, sometimes it is helpful for me to see what types of tools people have worked in. Because if we have, certain types of, software or process or ops related tools, and I know we are going to be living in those systems, it's helpful for me to see if someone's already got familiarity and that they won't need additional like ramp up time to learn those tools. So I don't know if that's relevant to, showing some of that technical stuff, but
I think, but what you're talking about is the technical part that matters is the tools that you used. That's the
mhm.
technical part they care about. So listing those out in like a technical tools used, or just making that like a paragraph instead of calling each one out
Yeah.
is a great way to tell that story. Because you're right, it is important. And someone for the kind of role you're looking for, it's helpful to have that background.
Okay, this is fun. All right,
How would
now.
you recommend if, say, someone is, a recent college graduate and they are going for technical roles, but the main experience that they've had has been in home lab, like building out a home lab, doing some things within their own home lab environment. They need that first opportunity to get an entry level role.
Mhm.
Um,
So actually, like, describe that. Treat it as a job. So home lab, you can even say like self-employed, or
mm.
talk about that as an education experience. There are a lot of ways to capture that. Even if you're a new grad, you have done something somewhere in your experience that is relevant to your job, and you should call that out as part of your career journey.
But format it like it's its own job.
Exactly.
So that way okay, that makes sense. So you're
Yeah.
not like, now here's a brand new paragraph that I need to read. It's the similar spacing formatting bullets.
Right. Keep it
That makes
familiar.
sense. Huh.
All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to superimpose these side by side. This was
Technical
what
skills.
That's what this is what the thing I've just been showing you has been what's what she saw before, and I'm going to show you window capture 4. Yes, get rid of that. And now I'm going to show you what she helped me turn it into. And let me find Firefox. There we go. And let me do this. Oopsie daisy. All oopsies, no daisies. And we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And now we're going to transition this, and I'm going to go back into this and scroll all the way back up. So, here's how we have now changed it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, let me go all the way back up so you have a
Mm.
before in the back, after in the front. As you can see, it's quite a bit less cluttered. I don't regret $1 I pasted that, by the way. And just so you know, and again, not an ad. Don't got to do anything. The 30 minutes that she gives for free is amazing, and it's all, it's great. But she essentially interviewed me, like how I interview people on these streams and these podcasts and things. She did that. She's like, tell me all about you. Like, it was like we spent hours doing this, but that's because that's what I needed, and I would like for other people to not have to do this. So that's why we're doing this. So I don't know. Take me through some of the obvious changes here, Susanna.
The summary of qualifications at the top. Again, it's what the person you're sending this to cares about, not what you care about. This is why I am the person you should talk to. This is generally who I am and how I show up. This is what I've achieved. And this is one line about what I'm looking for or what I bring to you.
Right.
And then the next section is professional highlights. And this is where you put your greatest hits. So you start with a strong action verb, designed and led, launch, and then you talk about what resulted from that. And these can actually be repeated in your bullet points under specific jobs, but this is your greatest hits. If no one read anything past this, they would be like, wow. The biggest change here is that there are no pronouns anywhere. No personal pronouns, no first person, nothing. It is very dry and direct.
So and then we had moved from the community contributions that got not there anymore. And then we moved down to the professional experience part. And now we can see how it was changed. So any call outs here about what we shifted?
So the interesting thing we did on your resume, which I have not done with many other people, is that we talked about how many people and how big the business was, particularly in your field
Yes.
where there are a lot of small businesses and sort of like rogue agents in all the best ways. It's important to share size because people are looking for comparable experience. It's very hard to go from a small company of 10 to a multi-million dollar multinational company. They're not going to look at you and they're not interested, but they're looking for comparable experience.
Sometimes the same way around too. If
Yep.
there's a startup who's looking for a unique type of person, if you've had just experience at really, really large companies, you might be fantastic, but you might not be able to kind of keep up with wearing all of the hats that a startup person does.
Exactly. There's something I wish someone had told me early in my career is that your choices stack up and that the die is kind of cast early on. So I kept trying to break into big four consulting firms. Ha ha ha. I would have been miserable. But they weren't ever going to look at me because I didn't go to the right college. I didn't have the right experience. I didn't have the right major. Was my experience applicable? Absolutely. Would I have been amazing? Yes. Would I have been a terrible culture fit? 100%.
Yeah. And now we get to the end, which is I still have that additional experience, but it doesn't take up so much space. And then selected presentations and publications. Essentially,
Which is almost like a little academic, right?
Yeah.
Like this is where you can find me. Essentially,
like if you got this far, thanks for reading. Here's some other cool shit. But if you didn't, okay. So in terms of priority, she helped me to prioritize that. Of again, I still care about it. And they're all and correct me if I'm wrong, Susanna. You are not in and of cybersecurity, correct? Like you
I
like
have nothing to do with cybersecurity.
nothing to do with
Nope,
cybersecurity.
don't know anything about it. I have
So
a friend who works in cybersecurity. That is it.
So there is there a tad bit of an element of the preparer still knows a little bit more about the industry and go with your gut about how much you know about that company and what they're going to be looking for. So in my gut, I still wanted this because I still think it's important for somebody to, and honestly, there were a couple of job recs or applications that said, what have you done? Give us links. So it's still good to have, like, and sometimes that came in the, like, the initial application form or whatever, but like they wanted to see that. And I've gotten feedback of like even the jobs I didn't get, be like, hey man, we actually clicked on your stuff and it was pretty cool. Like, thanks for putting that in there. So there is still of a, you are still the master and commander resume preparer. But be open to, and again, there were people that told me absolutely don't put this in. What are you, stupid? There are people of that, like, this resume got me the job I'm about to go into. Can't argue with success. I might have applied 40 places, but like they just needed the one. So that is the situational awareness part, right? Would you agree that that's important?
Yeah. And Jen, actually, I would love your feedback on this as sort of a brand building element. Where and how should you select the things you share in your resume as part of telling your story? What would you
Right.
advise people?
A lot of it does come down to looking at the role and figuring out like what in my history, whether it's something I've done from an internship or a volunteer perspective or just something community building, are there different aspects of my history and my personal story that I think will help to kind of level up this company and this role? I heard it, I cannot remember who said this, but when hiring managers or even you're looking at your next gig, don't look for a culture fit, look for like a culture plus. You don't just want to like fit into an existing structure because then everyone's looking for the exact same thing. You want someone that is going to help like even elevate the role and the team even more. So think back to your experience. And if there's something like Danny was saying that in your gut, like this might not be important to any of these other jobs that I might have applied to, but for this one, I think it's going to make a difference. Feel free to include that.
It's a culture ad. Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what I went through. And luckily, I started this here's the other thing too. I started this process with Susanna a long time ago. I think it's have we known each other for a year?
We've known each other for a year.
My God, woman.
Yeah, I know, right?
So yeah, I remember when this was, and I was like, I need to start looking at this, which infers a whole other story. And luckily, I'd gotten that fairly out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you unequivocally, you do not want to have to do this and be unemployed at the same time. It just compounds the stress and like imagine me sitting here already admitting that I suck at this. It's already stressful. I'm not good at it. Now I got to spend the hours doing this before I can even put it out there, because whatever garbage I had before wasn't going to get me anything.
And you're not in the right headspace. You're
not in the right
feeling
headspace.
Like total garbage.
Yeah. Now it's absolutely have to, as opposed to maintenance probably should do this, right? So it goes back to what we talked about in the first episode of this, saying, prepare thyself. Like, you never know. Even if you're so completely happy in the job that you're in and you've been there for a couple of years, 3 years, whatever, what would you would you recommend a cadence, Susanna? Like, put a thing on your calendar once a quarter. Hey, let me go brush that thing off and see what's what.
Yeah, like I have regular check-ins with the CEO now, and in our updates, I always share my wins and questions and things I'm working on. Those wins, then I translate into my resume, and I'm editing all the time, because what is a win now isn't going to be a win in 6 months, or is going to be superseded in 6 months. The other thing is that my resume then becomes my memory. So I go back to my old resumes and I'm like, what did I do? And I am able to pull that information forward, because sometimes it is helpful for what I'm doing now, or it's just, I don't know, like it's a good storytelling mechanism for my past to remember all the things that have happened in my career.
Yeah, it's the same way in that when I have a idea for writing or whatever, and I tell myself, oh, I'll remember it later. I don't have to write it down right now. I'm going to lose it.
Yeah. And the
And
other thing, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that if you really need to sit down and write something and you are not in the right frame of mind, I feel like everybody has that one friend or family member who's that hype person who, after you're done talking to them, you're like, I can take on the world. I could do anything. Talk to that person. Even if they don't know anything about your industry, just tell them like, hey, I really need to sit down and, write down my resume and think of the things that I've done. Can we just talk for a little bit? And you just like hype me up and make me feel better, because if you're in the right frame of mind, the things will just start coming, because I guarantee you have done so much more than you ever even imagined. But if you're not in the right frame of mind, you just think that, you're just the world's biggest piece of garbage. So talk to that hype person, let them hype you up, let it happen. And then when you're right in the zone, then you can start kind of crunching some stuff out.
And never forget what that person did for you to go and be that hype person for somebody else, whether they know that they need it or not. Jesus, I have such a deep, and this is such a privileged thing, is I have such a deep stable of hype people that, like, whether I wanted to believe it or not, like, everybody was like, oh, you won't be long. Everybody does the whole rah, like, you won't be long for the line or whatever. Like, it does help. It's hard to believe it, but like, yeah. So sit with a person you know is going to hype you up. And then for me, depending on how much of a masochist that you are, find the person that's going to absolutely tear your stuff apart. Find the pragmatist. I have friends like that. I love them. I would take several dozen bullets for these people. But I know when I put my stuff in front of them, it is game on. You are going to absolutely rip me to shreds. I'm not going to agree with everything that you say, but I've learned to recognize the nuggets of gold in there from that unfiltered pains love, this is gonna hurt me more than it hurts you, but not really aspect of reviewing of things. So as much as you find those morale hype people and cheerleaders, find the people that are just gonna smack the living crap out of you. I find just as much value from them. And then go cry it out.
My mom.
Yeah, and then go cry it out or go do yoga.
AI is a really good buddy for this. I turned to Claude.ai later in my job search once it was a thing, and Claude, it was that hype person for me because sometimes I was a little shy about asking the other humans in my life. But feeding my resume and the job description into Claude AI and pathetically asking, am I a good fit for this role, felt better every single time.
Not even remotely pathetic. Absolutely using the tools at your disposal in a
Yeah.
brilliant way.
Thank you. I have to leave. Actually, I have a conversation with colleagues about how to hire better. So
Oh, I
I'm
was
gonna head
just
out.
getting closing right now. I had the
Hey,
music
got the
starting
music
and
on.
everything.
Perfect.
This was awesome. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody,
you.
for joining us. Again, we're probably going to do another one of these. And do one on cover letters. We'll do it like
Cover
just because I
letters.
found a gig doesn't
Yeah.
mean I'm going to stop helping. So, Susanna, Jen, thank you very much. Pay attention on my LinkedIn and stuff, and I'm going to tell you guys when the next one is. But for everybody else, thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Oh.
People up top, push the people down low, get down and obey every word. Steady, get